everyone. As we approach the final hour of our program, and before we get into our next discussion, I'd like to ask Karina here. So you work with kids a lot, often, and what would you say are some of the most needed things in education today?
I think one of the highlights of me working with kids, especially in terms of education, would be teaching them English. And I think one of the other things that was a highlight of my work that I did during my time as Miss Indonesia was definitely teaching women, young women, teenage women, about women empowerment. And I feel like at the end of the day, that still comes down to education, teaching them what they need to know.
Sure.
And about experience and whatnot. So I think overall education, really, Paul, is the key to generating the future leaders of our country.
And despite all the advancements that we've made over the years, there's still a lot of progress to be made. And while we're on the subject of education, most recently we heard a lot about Finance Minister Sri Mulyani expressing concerns about the reluctance of some LPDP endowment fund beneficiaries to return home to Indonesia. The minister stated that she expects beneficiaries to return as stipulated on their contract, adding that the graduates could one day become future leaders.
That's right, and currently some 413 beneficiaries are yet to return, despite being required to 90 days after graduation. They are facing sanctions, including having to refund their tuition fees.
Perhaps a bit of an extended vacation to some. However, that's not the entire story.
That's right, Paul. And many LPDP beneficiaries have returned to Indonesia to give something back. And of course, today, our guests are among them. Today, we have joining us in the studio are Tommy, Yonathan, and Tasya, Amelia, Oktafuri, founders of Atlaz Learning Platform. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for coming by. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about Atlaz. What is it?
Well, Atlaz is, I would say, is an English learning ecosystem that we built together with our team as well. It is more than just a book because I feel like in formal education, especially English learning, usually teachers tend to focus too much on textbook. And also we see a lot of edutech startup right now focusing more on extracurriculars, also after school activities. We want to actually tackle the root problem, whereas actually we see a lot in schools, right, that they are still struggling. Teachers are not really prepared to teach, so we tackle from that side. That's Atlaz.
Right. To simplify it, would it be like instead of teaching just the theory of something, but actually practicing to use it? Because I remember about like 15 years ago, I think I mentioned that I taught at an after-school English program that's quite popular here. And most of my students, when I ask them, like, what do you have trouble with? Why are you not improving as much as I expect? They say, well, because there's a lot of rules to remember when it comes, and when I'm constantly thinking about what rules to apply to the sentence, I already can't get to that sentence in time, or the lack of using it. I mean, you can learn everything in a book, but if you're not speaking it on a day-to-day basis, or at least practicing it, it's going to definitely hinder your progress.
For sure, and I think, you know, looking back to when I was in school, I think half of, or even more than half of the things I learned back at school, I don't really use today. And it's, you know, you're constantly learning. Like you said, with all the edgy startups now, it's a whole different curriculum. I feel like it's something you definitely learn by doing, right? Now, with that being said, Tasya, you graduated from the University of Birmingham with a Master of Arts in Teaching English as a Foreign Language, while Tommy here holds a Master of Arts in Teaching English to speakers of other languages from Columbia University.
Definitely qualified for the job,
Very, very qualified. Now, you guys, can you maybe share with us a little bit, what are the differences between your respective majors, and what made you guys want to sort of hold that master's in English?
Well, As for me, essentially the TEFL, my TEFL, and Tommy's TESOLs are essentially the same.
Okay.
They're both the courses that dealing with how to teach English to non-native speakers.
Okay.
And those two are only difference in the naming.
Okay.
Just my University of Birmingham call it TEFL, Columbia University call it TESOL.
Okay.
But if you go to University of Birmingham today and you find TEFL, they change it to TESOL. So it's just the difference in the naming.
Okay.
Oh.
Same thing, different brands.
Same,
Same
same, same, but different.
Yes. So let's get back to Atlaz then. There are other English learning platforms out there. What did you guys come up with that makes it different than the other platforms, that makes it easier perhaps for students to learn?
Well, I think the key thing that made us different from many other competitors is that we're not only here to help students learn English, but we're also here to help teachers teach.
Okay. Two different viewpoints there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
How do you do that?
So having been teaching English for more than 10 years, both of us, we've noticed some problems with the way that teachers are struggling with preparing the materials. They don't have enough access to good quality materials yet, high quality materials. And there's a lack of authentic materials to teach English. And so they can get that, but it's difficult to come by because those are expensive.
Right.
So we want to make quality English teaching and resources that are affordable to teachers in Indonesia and easy to teach for students.
So they can actually use Atlaz as their platform as well to get material?
Yes,
Really?
exactly.
Oh, wow.
Wow,
You wanna
that's,
add-
that's definitely
That's
helpful.
very handy.
Yeah.
I had that 15 years ago.
I was just going to say, it's a shame you're not teaching
Well, it's
anymore.
difficult because as a teacher, to prepare every lesson, because this is an extracurricular thing,
Yeah.
I had to literally prepare each lesson every time. And you kind of have to keep turning your brain and
Yeah.
to
How do
come
I
up
make
with
this
examples.
different?
How do I make this relevant to what they're
Right.
going to use it for? Yeah,
Right,
all
right,
of these
right.
things come into play.
Yeah, no, and you know, you both studied abroad for some time, and obviously the way of thinking, the way of studying there is very different to here. What are the challenges based on the experience that you had there, or even the similarities that you've sort of incorporated here in Indonesia? I know it's very different ways of learning. Your students are obviously very different to what you learned there as well. So how did you adapt to that?
I think for me, especially with my experience teaching abroad, I had the opportunity to also work abroad. I taught English to more than 80 plus students from 80 plus countries as well. So I see different mother tongue, different also viewpoints, culture also, you know, affects how my students learn as well. I think just seeing how they adapt to my lessons and the curriculum that is used by my schools at that time also is what actually we created Atlaz with, right? We see the problems that our students facing. You know, to also adapt it to Indonesia as well. I think Atlaz is very localized as well.
Okay.
I think Tasya mentioned about how there are some high quality ones, but it's like from international materials. They are not really affordable as well.
Right.
I think accessibility is very important. You know, so we create something that is there's high quality but still affordable. Also, we're making it localized so it fits Indonesia's.
So apart from accessibility, obviously that's still a problem, especially those in rural areas who do not have access to gadgets and things of that sort. But from a learning perspective, what would you say are our weakness as Indonesians of learning English? What are some of the things that perhaps that you would be looking for solutions for through this platform in order to help people better learn?
Well, one of the modules that I learned when I was studying abroad is that I took educational observations module, so I got the privilege to visit UK schools to see how they're learning and teaching English from nursery to the highest level. And I noticed some similarities between Indonesia and the UK students. Some students are highly motivated to learn. It's really easy to teach them when they're like that. Some students are not so motivated.
They're there because their parents told them to.
Yeah, it's like I kind of have to be here because I have to.
Right.
And the teachers, the main difference is the way teachers teach. In the UK, they incorporated a lot of digital materials.
Okay.
And the amount of support that the teachers got in the UK are so the schools listen to the teachers, and the teachers they can do so much for the children because they know how to they know what they need to do, what materials they need. Okay. So the school support them with lots of materials that is easy for them to access.
Right.
And so I want that to happen in Indonesia as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean like the teachers are able to give feedback as well as to what it is that they need
course,
for
yes.
them to be able to do their lessons better and
The
stuff
schools
like that.
actually listen to them.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, I remember growing up in Canada. I mean, it's the school system, the school board, they called it.
Yeah.
Were always very involved. You would have school board visits
Yeah.
as well, and to make sure that the principal and all the teachers were running their ship properly.
To know what they're doing. Now, Tasya, you mentioned something about, motivation. Some kids are a little more motivated than others when it comes to learning. In your opinion, how would you sort of encourage kids, or is there a way that you've adapted or learned throughout this time that you've been doing this that you would incorporate on children or kids who are not maybe that excited to learn?
So one thing that works a lot from my experience watching how students learn there, the teachers try to make it relatable to them, the content. They try to make it accessible and relatable to the students so they have at least they're interested first.
Okay.
And then they make the activity, they take them away from the textbook to actually learn it by speaking and writing, to watch when they're watching, they're not only watching, or when they're reading, they're not only reading and, watching videos, they're actually doing something with the language.
Okay, so when did Atlaz start, by the way?
It's 2020.
No, 2019-ish.
Before the pandemic.
It's been 2 years.
Okay. It's a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than remembering it. So it's been a couple of years. I'm sure you've been tracking the progress.
Right.
How has it been so far? I mean, it's still in its early days, relatively.
Right. So we created, in total now we have 14 books, right?
Okay.
Yes.
We have 14 books, 7 for our primary level students and 7 for our secondary level students. We have started, visiting schools and telling schools about our products. But right now we're still in fundraising stage as well.
Okay.
So hopefully by appearing today also, a lot of people would see it. And
Still plenty of room to grow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I really see potential in Atlaz and how this can grow into something that really help the government's goal as well in 2045 with Gold Generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, by having our kids, our youth be able to speak proficient English, I think we can really compete great as a nation.
I mean, even before English was being taught, like even formally, or there wasn't as many after-school programs, kids were already learning to speak English on their own.
Even from television.
You walk through a mall now, kids are speaking English everywhere. It's great to have more learning platforms. Let's shift gears for a moment. We mentioned earlier about LPDP and you guys as beneficiaries. Could you tell us a little bit about how that program was able to help you transition eventually to Atlaz?
As for me, my LPDP has given me an enormous experience, such an honor to study abroad in the UK and to learn from a highly qualified professor at my study program. And not only that, but it also has given me lots of opportunities to work with like-minded people that I met in the UK. And from my LPDP experience, I applied for LPDP because I realized that there's a problems to fix in terms of teaching English. So I applied to study abroad, and then I got LPDP awardee. I learned a lot. I got the skills I need, the knowledge and the experience, and I just had to fix the problems in Indonesia. So
And those same problems still exist today.
still existing, and we're still trying to fix it.
Right. And Tommy, what was your experience like?
Okay, I think if I didn't have this scholarship, I wouldn't have had a lot of opportunities. Like I said, as I've said, I got the opportunity to work as well. I work at Teachers College as well. Also, I had the opportunity to volunteer, teaching a lot of immigrants who are still struggling to get employment. in Harlem, New York. So I saw a lot of people trying to really, you know, trying to really learn the language, and even they're adults, they still have the, you know, the passion
Right.
to like teach English, learn English. Also, I had the chance to lead in the student body and my faculty at Columbia University. So I feel like all these experience, you know, taught me not only just really the skills, but also really the leadership, being in a classroom full of a lot of like-minded people, my peers. They're really passionate about education. I was in school leadership change class as well at that time. Really gave me a lot of insights into how to tackle education problem, especially in Indonesia as well.
Let's, so just to clear it up, like the LPDP program beneficiaries, you were, as beneficiaries of that, you were able to be placed in those kind of situations as well. For example, being able to observe the teaching classes, or in your case, teachers' college. Was that helped along by LPDP as well?
For us, I think, well, LPDP gave us the
access
financial
to that.
means.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Financial means also. The university that we choose, LPDP makes sure that they are good universities,
Yeah.
right? It's not just any university you can also apply to.
Right.
And we also have I think LPDP also has like the alumni organization where they also take care of the alumni as well.
Okay.
to their return.
Because there's this like misconception. They figure, well, if you're just going abroad to go to school, like, you know, if you have
Yeah.
the means financially, you can just go ahead and do it.
go.
But it's not just that.
Right.
Obviously, there's other doors that can be opened for you through this
Exactly.
opportunity.
Now, it was good that you mentioned that, Paul, because I feel like a lot of kids who, you know, they have the opportunity to study abroad, they find it comfortable there.
Perhaps. Make some
and
new friends.
Make some new friends, and they don't want to leave. They don't want to go back home. Now, from your personal point of view, why do you think it's important to come home and contribute to the country? And not only that, but what can you say to our friends who are still abroad and don't want to come home?
I always see studying abroad like visiting your neighbor's house. So I would like for us to imagine that we have a garden and it's not doing so well. When we look at our neighbor's house, the garden is thriving, it's blooming, it's beautiful. We want to learn how to have a garden like this, how to grow plants and how to keep a garden like this. We visit our neighbor's house, we learn everything there is to do with gardening. And then when we look at our house, it still needs some work to do. We need to go back and tend to our own garden.
All right.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's how I think about studying abroad is, in my opinion. And as for me, the reason I went back home is that because I made a promise to myself. When you signed the contract, even before that, when you applied for LPDP, you need to write an essay that says your contribution to Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and everybody needs to do that, even before they got awarded. And on those essays, I mentioned a lot of problems that I'm trying to fix. I need this and this. And so when I go home, I will do this and that.
Right.
So those are promises, right?
You literally wrote out your promise.
Yeah, literally.
Perhaps we should send those graduates their essays. They remember this?
I remember this.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, and so when you got the scholarship again, you had to sign a contract that said you had to return home 90 days after your study.
That's 3 extra months. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's enough vacation days.
And you had to at least stay in Indonesia twice the year of your study plus 1 more year.
right, makes sense.
And then during those years, you need to contribute.
Okay. Oh, you need to already be doing something in the meantime.
You need to be doing something.
How about you, Tommy? Anything to add?
You know what? I think I'll come with this. I can see why, you know, some of those people would not want to return in the case of probably see that there's more opportunities out there. But I just you know, like what Tasya just mentioned, that we've signed the contract. You know, we've written, like you said, the promise.
Yeah,
like what the
promises,
promise.
So you know, for me, it's really just 2 things. You know, giving back and gratitude. Really,
Exactly.
that we have given this super big grand chance, to be able to be abroad, studying in a great university, to get all the great skills, return, give back, contribute, be grateful.
I agree. I agree with both of you, actually. And if I can add on to what you say, I think there's actually, most people see it as, oh, I'm overseas, I'm abroad. There's so much more potential here. Where in fact, there's more potential here in Indonesia, where it's still developing. There's still more jobs to be grown and industries and sectors. Whereas over there, everything's quite developed already. So you're basically just slotting yourself in somewhere. And the grass is always greener on the other side, but it doesn't mean we have to move to the neighbor's lawn. We just make our grass just as green, if not greener. There you go. Good stuff, guys. All right, thank you guys so much for dropping by and sharing your experiences. And for Atlaz as well, where can we find out more, by the way?
You can go to our website, hiatlaz.com. You can also check our Instagram.
Okay, awesome. At Atlaz ID? Yes?
At hi.atlaz.
Oh, there you go.
With Z.
Glad you guys corrected me.
With a Z.
I just made that up on the spot. Thank you both again. Tommy, Tasya, we really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take another short break here on the program. When we return, though, we're going to recap some of our earlier stories in case you missed it. We'll be right back.